All right, guys, before we do anything.
Oh, no. Do your best. Your best alien. Oh, no. Okay. Welcome to... She's losing it. We haven't even started. Because, what is this? The Earth Girls Are Easy on Beyond the OC.
Episode 46 of The Rewind. The Earth Girls Are Easy.
The countdown. I'm really excited to talk to you, CG, about this one because it's actually one of my favorite ones. And for a number of different reasons. But, okay, I just saw she made a face, people. she kind of like grimaced.
It's one of your favorites?
Yes. Well, but you know,
you were very enthusiastic when I listened to the last podcast, but
yes,
before we even get into
it was good for me. The episode itself was good for me.
I have a question.
Okay.
Norman on the last podcast said that The Earth Girls Are Easy was a film.
Yes.
What film? I didn't do the research, but I heard him say that, and I was like, okay, what are we referencing here?
It's a musical comedy. Valerie, Gina Davis, is dealing with her philandering fiancé, Ted, Charles Rocket, when she finds that a trio of aliens, Jeff Goldblum, Jim Carrey, and Damon Wayans, have crashed their spaceship into her swimming pool. Once the furry beings are shaved, oh my God, I do remember this, at her girlfriend's salon, the women discover three handsome men underneath. After absorbing the native culture via television, the spacemen are ready to hit the dating scene in 1980s Los Angeles.
That's funny.
That actually sounds funny. Should we do a watch?
That sounds funny.
Yeah.
Maybe we should watch it. Anyways.
Okay, so everyone's here. We're here to talk about The Earth Girls Are Easy. We listened to the last podcast. I actually thought that we, I noticed that I talked a lot. Did you notice that?
You did. But Norman had a lot of good things to say.
Yes. So it was great to hear somebody who directed it, and he had
directed by Norman Buckley, written by Mark Fish.
Who's gone on to do quite a few great television shows himself. And I just thought I think basically we're going to talk about the two main storylines, the foursome in the desert, and then Julie, Caitlin, Bullet, that whole thing in back.
Well, should I just read? I'll read the synopsis because we're getting ahead.
Okay.
Getting ahead.
So we're being visited by some friends from other planets.
From
maybe?
planet
Zernog.
Zergnog. Or
Zergnog.
What's the planet that's in we're being visited by aliens from Atomic County. Greetings, Earthlings. Prepare for an intergalactic saga in The Earth Girls Are Easy, as Ryan whisks Taylor away to the neon planet that is Las Vegas, igniting chaos when Summer suspects a miniature human along with them, all while they pursue my fellow aliens in an Area 51 rave. Meanwhile, in the earthly realm of Newport, Julie's covert matchmaking collides with the arrival of a mysterious creature named Frank Perry. A peculiar specimen named Caitlin discovers solace in an unforeseen cosmic corners with Bullet, while Sandy unravels Frank's extraterrestrial ties to Ryan's past. Brace yourselves, fellow star travelers, for a cosmic comedy of errors that transcends the bounds of our understanding.
I'm like proud mom here, just listening to your... Okay, guys. Anyway, yeah, the alien who's narrating this odd. Okay, now obviously we don't want to repeat what we talked about, but I really do think that Norman gave a shout out to Jeff Granzow, the editor who had the idea to do the flashback and actually show the scenes.
I love things that do that. I like the rewinding of time to be like, this is what happened.
Yeah, it grabbed your attention, right?
Yeah. I will say, before we get into it, this bouncing around between all the episodes, I was watching like the what happened last week on the OC and then this episode, and I'm like, how the fuck did we get here? I'm like, what is going on, I'm like, I don't even remember how we got to this place. I forgot you had that matchmaking thing. Ryan and Taylor, I was like, really, I just like, I didn't remember this episode at all. And I knew like these things happened, but I was like, how did we get here?
Yeah, no, it's an important thing, and I think, for love it, hate it. I personally loved season 4, because I just accepted that that's what we were in.
You had fun doing it.
We had fun doing it, and they wrote for my character. But the episode just before this was the "It's a Wonderful Life" episode, the alternate universe with, if Ryan had never been to Newport, what would life have been? And there was closure. So this was a great follow up for the mid season to have something fun, and it really reminded me that these are not high school kids anymore. They're adults. They're young adults. They're at college. Because as I was watching, I was like, oh, that's right. They are. Our Summer's already been to Brown, and now because I love her little dropout speech.
Yeah, I didn't remember she dropped out. Like,
yes. So it is hard to bounce around.
Hey, you made out with Chris Pratt in the episode before this.
Yeah, making out with him.
You made out with him in the episode before this.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yes, that one.
I remember that episode.
The stuff that you remember, CG.
Of course, I have the list in my mind of all the hot actors you've made out with.
Oh my gosh. I just saw another one.
It's my Rolodex. Another one? Who's your other one?
Well, no, I'm just another list. There's a Bruce Campbell in Xena. Did you notice that? Anyway, we'll talk about that later. So, okay, let's get back to the OC.
Well, okay, but the last podcast, you talked about how Fabio pursued you at one point.
Yeah.
And you never told me this? Fabio wanted to date you? Jerry Seinfeld and Fabio have both wanted to date you, and you just didn't want to tell me. Fabio!
Well, I guess I'm saving it for a podcast all these years. That's I found the tape like last summer. I have it.
I want to see it.
Oh boy. I could post that one.
That would go viral.
Gosh, we haven't even got into the episode. But let's look. We know what's going on. This is obviously this is, New Year's Eve in television. We always, celebrate the holidays, and New Year's Eve was always a big deal, especially I think the most famous one is the Marissa Ryan one back from season 1, the very first one. And Norman mentioned that he directed that, and then he's directing this one. Very different. But I do like the opening. I want to hear your reaction to the opening of how the girls are going back and forth, where Ryan has planned Vegas for, I was going to say autumn, for Taylor. And clearly they're going to do the dirty. It's going to be their first time. And Seth, on the other hand, has planned nothing.
Yeah. Well, so I really liked the opening with the pregnancy scene in the bathroom, and then the 7 hours earlier.
Right.
That was very pleasing to the viewer. I really liked that. But I will say, when you see them though, when they're at the mall where Seth works, that's the first scene after the 7 hours thing, I think. Mm-hmm. They look so much older from season 3. Because the last we haven't watched a season 4 episode yet. So I was like, they look so much older. Just from in one season, watching it, not watching it in order, I think you would see their natural age progression. But they look a lot older.
Do you think that, and I have a feeling if I asked Rachel this, she would say, no, I think I know the answer. But I do think there could be something subconsciously or even consciously that the actors now, it's I don't have to play high school anymore. I'm out of high school and I can relax into my adult body.
You've said that the boys were Ben was 25 playing a 16-year-old. They didn't want to be playing high schoolers anymore. So they were probably Ben plays Ryan older. You can just tell that everyone just seems older. They don't act like high school or look like high school anymore.
No.
Maybe they were makeup and hair and all that stuff. Maybe they did that a little bit, but
yeah. But I think Ben was not 29 when the show ended. So that's, he's a man. So let's see. It's very fun. It's, after all the emotion that we've had for the first part, the first 7 episodes have been pretty heavy. This episode is letting you know it's time to be light and fun, and Autumn was just giving it her all. I was reading some of the book today, and I think it's when we did the podcast, the book hadn't been out. So now, having read the book, there's a lot of revelations. I'm looking at it differently. I can see that, Autumn was really doing her best. And Ben even said she brought this lightness and comedy, and it was nice. He said it was nice for Ryan to have a few jokes and to react off of that, because acting really is reacting. And I thought she brought a great energy. And
oh, she's so fun. I mean, it was perfectly cast as Taylor. But I do want to say, having been in a relationship at the age that they are in, maybe it's like the time difference, but was that like a thing to like give lingerie to your boyfriend as a gift and be like, I'm going to wear this? Because I've never known anyone to ever do that. So when I saw her doing that and he opened it, he was like, is that a thing?
I think we need to consider the character, because there are so many things in this episode that we could point out that are completely Taylorisms that are not, I don't think I wouldn't say normal, but the average girl would do. There's a number of things that we could point out. And I think that's what makes her unique. So I don't think that who knows, but when you think about the fact she's already been married, she's Peaches, she knows who she is, she's sexual, she's way kind of beyond in her years than a lot of average girls, I think.
Okay.
That's to answer your question.
But like, do adults do that?
Yeah, well, Victoria's Secret was designed for guys to go in to buy gifts for their girlfriends and wives.
No, but I mean the girls giving a gift to a guy that is lingerie and them being like, I'm going to wear this. Not guy buying it for a girlfriend being like, look, here's this, I'm going to wear it.
I don't think, yes, that's absolutely a gift that you can give to your significant other.
Interesting. I would have never ever thought of doing that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But I think that's also I think that's what men love. Like they want.
I literally wrote it down. I was like, is that a thing that people do? Like,
oh, interesting things you learn. Okay.
Yeah.
So now that happens, but we've got a comment on, Summer talking to the T-shirt that he gives her as a gift that says Jamaican me crazy. And he goes, I just love his delivery. He goes, you get it? It's funny because it's not. And I thought, what? Like, I was so confused even to see it again. And she's like, you didn't Jamaican any plans or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting thing, because I was thinking he hasn't had too much to do. But now that I realize, if you go to the book again, how they felt like the quality or the material was suffering in season 4, they were almost catering to their apathetic attitudes. I think, I could be reading into it a little bit, but
I mean, like Norman did say on the last podcast, like the boys were not giving it their all. And we actually got a question from someone on Reddit. It's Reddit user, but the I's are the letter 1. I'm not going to spell that out. But they said, I remember Norman Buckley saying the boys were particularly tough to direct this episode. Any more insight on that dynamic? I mean, Mom, you didn't do any scenes with them, so you probably don't have any insight into that.
Well, not necessarily this episode in per se but yeah, there's a lot more insight because the boys have talked about it in the book. And like what we were just saying, like that's from season 3 on, it was, I saw another paragraph. So I suggest, if you really want to know, go read the book. If you haven't already, there's a lot of certain honesty and also people really taking responsibility, the boys taking responsibility for how they felt. And there's nothing malicious about it. But I think it's a natural, when Adam said, I think he said, at the end, I think we were all sick of each other, which I'm like, I don't speak for me, you know?
Well, they talk about like getting more opportunities and, wanting to branch out into their acting career and not wanting to just be on this show. And I mean, with the whole like weed storyline that comes before, is it before or after this, whatever? I do think they could have been like playing towards Brody's sort of like lackadaisical kind of like, I'm not into this anymore, because I think a lot of the storylines in season 4 are like that. Like he's like, I didn't make any plans.
For me personally, since I actually did the podcast with Rachel, looked at all the episodes, and then learned more from the book, now I watch the episodes with a different eye, and I'm looking, especially like the opening and just all of these scenes, kind of looking for the where Adam said it was kind of a challenge to myself to read a script and see if I could just do my thing with just learning my dialogue, which is something that my father did on Days of Our Lives. When you do something for 40 years, yes, it becomes a grind. Yes, you're doing it to pay your bills. Yes, you're not the whole creativity thing. He didn't think of it as creative at some point.
You do something for long enough. I mean, 40 years is different than 4 years, but
but that's also different. He wasn't getting offered movie scripts that he had to turn down,
right.
My father compared. This is a young man at the beginning of his career saying, right, I'm just done. I'm done. And it's not one person's fault at all, because he did show up on time. He was professional. But I'm looking at that particular scenes and I'm going, are they feeling like, are they letting what's happening on the outside come into the scenes?
Yeah. I know Norman said he had to like give him be like, guys, come on, like, let's do this. But I do think like the final product that was put on TV, like it works. Like what they're doing works.
Yeah.
Like yes, after reading the book and hearing Norman talk about it, you do kind of pay attention to like, oh, the storylines or their acting. He's obviously not as witty and like quick with it like he was in season 1. Like I think when he was just kind of like ad-libbing and things like that. But the final product of this episode is enjoyable, and the dynamic of the 4 of them works, whether they were like fully in it or not.
Right. So moving on, let's get into what, just really quick, let's point out what this other Taylorism that kind of motivates this whole thing is that she is packing and she pulls out her date book.
Well, she sees tampons,
date book, and you see the things.
So you assume it's her.
Turning. Yeah, and you see these wheels turning, and then all of a sudden she says, "You're
Summer, I think you're pregnant."
What? And it turns into like, how would you know that? So first of all, did you ever? I don't count like that, and I would never. I mean, it's only believable because it's Taylor, right?
Yeah, I think honestly, in my generation, like most young women are on birth control because it's for acne and all these other things, and that science wasn't out in the early 2000s.
It was
not as much so. Like it wasn't as normal to be on birth control as much. And so I'm just like thinking like the girls I went to school with, like I think almost everyone was on it.
Yeah, but you could still be on birth control and miss your period if you're pregnant.
Could you? But like you don't track in like a book. Like we didn't do that. We had like the packs.
I see what you're saying, but
so you wouldn't like write it down.
Even my generation, everyone was on birth control. So
yeah.
Anyway, but it is a Taylorism that she notices this, and of course I think you could argue that she's really fucking annoying about this.
Okay, I wrote down, getting ahead, but so Seth is like, I'm going to hop on the plane to Vegas.
Right.
Like, we're going with you to Vegas. We're getting in the car. If I was Summer in that car with Taylor, I would have hit her. Taylor leaning forward and being like, Seth, don't you think it's important that you tell your partner about a big health issue? Or like the whispering and like, we need to try our toothpaste. And that's what causes like Seth to see the pregnancy test. She was being so annoying. I'm like, if you're really my friend, you be quiet. I tell you we'll take it. We'll do it in a few minutes. Just shut up. I don't want these boys knowing about it. And yes, I get it. You want to be a good friend. And that moment when they held hands was very, very sweet. But if I was Summer, I would have been like, you're not being a good friend right now because you're going to tell them. And I don't want them to know yet.
Okay, this is a great time to read from Jasmine on YouTube. She said, loved how this episode really pulled focus on how much Summer and Taylor's friendship had developed. This is such a ridiculously fun episode. It follows a pretty sobering and healing episode for Ryan and everyone, and then sets up Seth, Summer, and the Frank storyline to come, a pretty solid mid-season installment. So we're talking about the friendship. So yes, I could see where it would, I think when you play as an actor or whatever, as the scene is played, that Taylor is doing all this stuff, but it's entertaining because it's creating so much conflict. But it really is, in some ways, you could also take the other side of the argument and say, Summer's never really had a friend like this. She's never had a friend who's that like caring for her in her, the friend that's like annoyingly right. Like, we need to do this. We need to figure this out. And
Oh my God.
What are you thinking? You know someone like this?
I'm Taylor.
You just put your foot in your mouth.
I bet if I called my friends right now and described what you were just saying, they'd be like, yeah, CG, that's fucking you. And you annoy the shit out of us most of the time when you're trying to help us live our lives.
Like, we need to do it, and I'm going to help you do it. We're doing it right now.
And I was literally just saying I want to hit Taylor in the face. So I should go hit myself in the face.
What comes out of people's mouths is about themselves. Have you ever heard that?
I'm hiding behind my microphone right now.
Okay, so over here in the Racina just said, lol, agreed. Shut up, Taylor, but love her honesty. Summer had to take care of Coop.
Yeah, shut up, Taylor. Shut up, CG. I'm going to play this for my friends once they release it, and they're going to be like, oh my God. I've gotten better at it, but
no, and I think you're right. So that's what we were just saying, is that Summer was always kind of taking care of Marissa because she was this wounded bird. And so Taylor is now, Summer's never had a relationship like this, and she doesn't have a mom around.
Yeah.
So this energy.
I'm called the mom of the friend group. I will say, I just want to put it out there. Yes, I'm like Taylor, but I would never do what she did in the car. I would never be like, Seth, what do you think? So I'm like Taylor, but I would never do that.
Okay, but I love the acting choices that Autumn made when she goes,
oh no, Autumn's great.
Hair. There's something in your hair. Okay. I mean, the whispering was hysterical.
You need to tell Seth. I think you need to tell Seth.
And then my favorite moment is actually, I found somebody had taken a screen grab of when Taylor reaches over and she pinches Ryan and he makes this face, and I put it on my Instagram. It's like, it is the funniest picture because you don't get Ryan making faces like that.
No, Autumn's great. Me saying that about Taylor has nothing to do with Autumn. It's just Taylor's character. I'm like,
yeah. Yes. Some of my other favorite moments when she says, who's that? And she's like, Slutty Aylin. Did you pee? We talked about that. And then, of course, the alien and just the imagery. We'll talk about that again. And then also one of my favorite moments literally was as they're driving off into the desert and you hear the cover of Smile Like You Mean It, the Killers song by Tally Hall. And and of course, it just throws you back to season 2, episode 4, when the Killers were on.
I don't remember that.
That song.
I'm sure I will when I rewatch it.
Yes, it's triggering. So then, of course, the alien, takes the test because everyone, I guess. Well,
she takes the purse.
She takes a purse and the test in it, and it becomes. And I kept thinking, like, just go. And I love that Seth. So it is nice when characters are written to point out, like, can't you just get another purse and cancel your credit cards and they can get another test and and I was like, what is the real reason for all of this? But there were so many great.
It's the essence of it. It's Summer wanted to know where she stood before the new year. A lot of people think like New Year's is a completely new beginning. That's why New Year's resolutions exist, when all of it is a lot of BS. But she wanted to know before the new year, which I understand. This New Year's, I sat under the table eating 12 green grapes, shoveling them down my mouth to bring love into my life.
Because you did that TikTok trend. silly.
Because like for some reason New Year's like brings something out in people that they're like, I want to be a new person. I want to change this. I want to do that. And so I understand wanting the test by like the stroke of midnight. Like I get it.
Right.
You want to know things. You want to like start your new year off fresh. Like I get it.
Yeah.
I get the reasoning. But again, I agree that Seth is like, you could just get a new purse, cancel your cards. Like what really in there is that vital that we need to chase after?
Oh, I know some people, I mean, I think like I said in the last podcast, I said New Year's isn't like to me, it was like not a real holiday. It's just an excuse to go out and like kind of party.
Yeah.
But
I mean, this New Year's I hung out with you.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I want to go to bed at midnight, before midnight.
No, you stayed up with me to midnight.
Oh, that's true. I did.
Yeah, you stayed up with me.
Like and it was 12:01. Done.
Yeah,
go to bed.
It was like 12:05. We're like, okay. We were watching National Treasure.
Oh. Okay. So the other thing, I just because we do have a fan coming on, and I was thinking like maybe we could discuss some of the stuff that goes on later at the rave and stuff with her.
Okay.
And we
have to talk
Julie.
about yeah. Well, no. We have to talk about the end of the episode with Seth and Summer. The very end is very important.
Yeah.
So he proposes, which I forgot happens. Yeah. He does that to be like, I want to be with you whether you're pregnant or not. But I think in his head, he's like, she's pregnant.
But I thought it was a great gesture. But as soon as when she said, what does it say? And he says, I haven't seen it. I just want you to know, because Ryan says he motivates him to like do the right thing because he screwed up. And when he said, give me a paw, that whole thing, could you imagine if it was yours? He does the right thing. But at the same time, like as soon as they look at it and says it's negative, did your heart just drop?
It was so awkward. Yeah. Like, because she was like, yeah, I'll marry you. And it's like, and then they go, should we hug again? Like, it was awkward when they found out she wasn't pregnant.
Yeah. Let's get, here's another question from Melanie on Instagram. Melanie Kalumna. What do you think? She said, who popped the second proposal that led to the marriage of Seth and Summer at the end of the show?
Wait, what?
So they, at the very finale, we see a flash
they get
forward.
Married.
They get married, and we don't get to see it, but she's asking us to speculate how that went down.
Oh.
How do you think it went down? So let's think about that.
I think that's a good question to ask our guest later.
Okay. Good idea.
So let's ponder it until our guest comes.
Okay. So now let's start the next with the Julie, Bullet, Caitlin, new match. Julie is like Miss Covert.
I didn't even remember this storyline at all. I was like, what is going on here?
I remember having so much fun with the storyline because Gary Grubbs, who played Bullet, Josh said in the book, who knew that he was like the breakout entertainment for season 4.
He was funny.
And
he's so off-putting, but he has a kind of like silly dad charm that you're like, I like him.
But he's politically incorrect.
Yeah.
He's
got
borderline
lots of
racist,
problems.
but he's not malicious. He says all these totally offensive, insulting things. And somehow you still have Julie really finds him endearing. And I think she still struggles with like, there's a nice guy with money and Caitlin likes and all this. So you can see her future becomes a little bit unclear.
Yeah.
But somebody wrote on Reddit from Spaz on Earth. Hi, CG and Melinda. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Madam Julie Cooper storyline. Even as a diehard season 4 supporter, I found it so ridiculously off the wall. But isn't that the charm of season 4? Also, Team Bullet or Team Frank? So, yes, the whole season was the suspension of disbelief that we kept talking about. And I think what's really important as an actor is that to believe is brave. If I try not to judge the storyline, and that's why I tended to have.
That's
a lot
why
of fun.
I'm here.
Yeah,
I can judge the storyline.
But I love she's in over her head, and it creates. But just playing it for how stressed out it is creates some funny moments because now she's lying to Kiki, and we now know that Julie's trying to be a good girl, but this covert thing and this mysterious man is engaging. It's intriguing. Like, what's
It
going
is,
on? What'd you
but
think?
this whole thing, I don't know. Julie has this like character arc. I'm like, would she? I don't know. I also kind of had like a little bit of a hard time buying into it. I'm like, Julie has had this like redemption arc, and now she's like running a prostitution ring,
Yeah.
kind of. Also, the fact that the guy, I forget his name, Spencer, gets in the car. He's like, we're going to make 40 grand each. I'm like, that's a lot of money.
In one night, yeah.
How is that possible that you're making 80 grand in one night? I'm like, that doesn't seem like, how much are these Noopsy women paying for these young men? Like, that seems a little, I didn't believe it. That was too much. That's like astronomical.
Is it like 10? Is it 10,000 a night? Is it 5,000? Like, what is it? But here's the thing that I think is interesting, because I would never have thought of this, that, and in fact, when you and I were at Petit Trois, I ran into one of the executives that it was in the book, and he's the one that said, Julie Coop, we needed more bad guys because Desperate Housewives was out. Julie had become too good, and we needed and that's like when they brought in Charlotte as well, but they needed something that was conflict, and that, something that, I don't know. Of course it's kind of unbelievable, but again, I think it was a fun storyline. And
oh no, it's fun, but I'm just, the other thing that I'm a little like, about, which I guess, again, suspension of disbelief, is like, how does Frank know about New Match? How does he know to get this book? How does he know who this guy is? Like, how does, like, where, and I don't think they really explain that, like how he knew to get in with you, and knew that, like, how did he know to follow this guy Spencer, and like, where did he get all this info? Yeah. Like, wasn't he in prison? Like, how does that all fold in?
Let's read that one from the Reddit user. Yeah.
So Reddit user, again, with the ones as the eyes. Reddit user 1. I loved this episode and thought it struck the perfect balance between high-stakes soapiness, the Frank reveal in particular, and the pregnancy scare, relationship character drama, as in the proposal, Caitlin missing Jimmy, Seth being a child, and silly comedy, such as the slutty alien and prostitution ring, and series callbacks, like Kid Chino and Jimmy still being there. I also loved the Smile Like You Mean It cover, which you mentioned, and I still remember how hard that twist hit, I'm Ryan's father, cut with Sandy reviewing Frank's record, which, great cinematic going back and forth between your conversation with Frank and Sandy going through the files. That was lovely when it aired. I wish they hadn't gone soft sentimental with the Frank storyline immediately after this and set up the Julie romance so quickly. I would have liked more of this dramatic, soapy tone in subsequent episodes. The tone of this episode felt more to me like season 1 and 2, whereas the rest of the season feels more like a full-on comedy. Melinda, what did you think of the Frank storyline in general and the romance specifically?
First of all, you mentioned the reveal, the way that, that feeling of like, how do I know that guy? How do I know that guy? And then Sandy's looking, and Julie's like, I'm not a whore. I don't trade sex. I might be a madam, but I'm not a whore. Great line. And it cuts back and forth as
what does that mean?
What?
I'm a madam,
but I'm not a whore. Meaning she's like, I might be a madam. I might manage these women and sell them for sex, but I don't trade. I'm not going to do anything for sex. Like, I'm not that person. Anyway, so as we're going, here's the thing. As they're going through, you see his rap sheet. It says DUI,
assault and battery.
It said breaking and entering, assault, domestic incident. So all this time, I had never really paid attention to that. And when we did the podcast, I made a comment about Frank being abusive. And one of the problems to me was that, he emerged as this very elegant man who's now, I guess he was an alcoholic, and he's come out totally reformed, but super elegant, not rough, but the way he was introduced
Except
to us.
Except for the haircut.
Yeah. But the way he was introduced to us, I thought it was going to be, and he goes, I'm Ryan's dad. Dun, dun, dun. And then the rest of the storyline, he was very just like, he's a great guy. And it felt a little soft.
Josephine just mentioned in the chat that season 4 suffered because there were so many fewer episodes in season 4. Like they didn't have time to flesh it out. Like I feel like if it was the length of season 1, they could have had like 4 episodes of Frank being a bad guy. But because it was so much shorter, they kind of had to.
That's a good point. Thank you, Josephine. But I think also what's interesting, is that Josh said Frank never hit anyone. He was never was a domestic abuser. He was a drunk, but he never hit anyone because he thought that's unforgivable in the storyline.
In your rap sheet, though, like on those things, domestic incidents could be like his wife called the cops on him because she was scared for her and Ryan's life or something.
Right. There's no proof.
From my criminology minor, you can get it can be on your rap sheet if you never actually touched someone, but the people in your household had the fear that it was going to happen.
That's true. But I think the general audience, and you can all comment on this, who all thought that as the show's going along, that when they talk about Ryan's dad, he was the classic abusive father that had at least laid a hand on everyone in that household.
100%. I feel like this maybe this didn't actually happen, but I feel like in the earlier seasons, Ryan talks about his dad hitting his mom. Like being like, maybe that was just like an assumption that you made.
I think, and
because Dawn talks about like your dad was never good to me. Like maybe it's like the things Ryan's mom said that made it seem like that.
I mean, I had to go with Josh. I was like, I had no idea. I just pictured him as a physical abuser. And he said he wasn't a physical abuser. He was abusive in every other way, by being absent, by getting put in jail, by, not being around.
Interesting.
And maybe Dawn was the more physical person. I don't know. But it was something that I thought was really interesting when we interviewed Josh specifically for this storyline.
Oh, Josephine made a good comment. She says in the first episode, Dawn's boyfriend is there. It's not Ryan's dad.
Right.
So maybe we assumed that because I feel like I remember Dawn saying something about like being hit.
Right. No.
So Josephine made a point that it's Dawn's boyfriend at the time. So maybe that's where that kind of assumption came from.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
So yes, the reason that Frank was brought on was I thought it was a great storyline to have Ryan's father. We've had everyone else from his past. And I thought, you know what? I thought Kevin Sorbo was a great addition to although Norman seemed to think that he didn't like his hair. And I guess that's kind of been, maybe it's kind of like maybe his hair is his power. He didn't cut it off.
I didn't understand what was wrong with his hair. You guys talked about his hair so much in the last podcast. I was like, what's wrong with his hair?
I don't know.
He just has hair. Like his hair still looks the same.
Right.
Like it's just hair. I was very confused when Norman was like, oh, his hair is so chino. I was like, what's wrong with his hair? Why is his hair so chino? I don't get it.
I don't know. Well, he had long hair as Hercules, and then I guess, he still has long hair. I don't know.
But so what do you think about the Frank storyline? I mean, obviously we know as it goes on, like Frank and Julie have a romance and Julie ends up having a kid with Frank. Spoiler alert. Or I guess you don't know if it's spoiler. No, it's Frank's, right?
It's Frank's. Yeah. It's Frank's.
It's Frank's.
Yeah.
But so what do you think of like Julie's progression?
I think that was a really good point when we only have 8 episodes to go, that you bring in a character, because it comes up, he instantly tries to get into Ryan's good graces and he lies about having cancer. And then Sandy, one of my favorite scenes or moments of the entire series is when Sandy punches him.
I don't remember that. I guess we'll see. That has to be in the top 50.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite scenes. But, I think what's really great is that I like the way that she had choices, even though she actually had some true feelings for both men for different reasons. But then she really started thinking about Caitlin. And then when she's supposed to get married to Bullet, and then she decides not to get married to anyone and choose herself. I thought that was a great choice, where she felt like her name is Julie Cooper Roberts. Wait, Julie
Cooper
Cooper
Nickel.
Julie Cooper Nickel Cooper Roberts Bullet Atwood. That's what I say. She ends up, just standing on her own 2 feet. It's not necessary for her to have a man to take care of her, because everything she learned, becoming, having to live in a trailer, and her losing her daughter, and still having Caitlin, and being the survivor that she is, but she doesn't need that. And also at the end, you see that they're all in her life. Like, everyone ends up being there to support her anyway.
I'm sure the finale's in the top 50, so we can talk about that more then.
When it gets there. Yeah. Okay, everyone, we're going to pause for a minute, and when we come back, our guest will be here. So, Lindsay, tell us, how you're a big fan of the show.
Oh my gosh, I've been obsessed with this show since the very first episode aired. I got married 16 years ago, and I had to somehow incorporate the OC into my wedding day, of course. And so I had a very curated list of songs that I wanted played at my reception. And me and my husband's first dance was to Maybe I'm Amazed by Jem. So
perfect.
I had to have it in there.
Oh my gosh.
That's cute.
That is an amazing song, because Maybe I'm Amazed. Yeah. I love it. And I love how you're dressed in such a fun, what do you call it? You've got a bustier on, you've got a leopard print.
Yeah. I'm channeling a little bit of Anna Stern, maybe.
Oh, exactly. I was thinking that. I was like, what are her earrings reminding me of? And actually, I always say Samira. That's how she'll say her name.
Okay.
I always say it incorrectly. That she brought in, I think, a lot of her own personal style. She was really quirky, and I love all the mixture. So Lindsay is channeling Anna here. So we've been talking about the Earth Girls Are Easy, and so we're the 2 major storylines going on with the aliens, and the Summer and Taylor, and the pregnancy, and the Frank and Julie, and the Madam and Bullet and Caitlin. What are your favorite moments from this episode?
Well, I really like the beginning where it goes in reverse. That was really cool aspect of it. It was really different. But yeah, I did think the quirkiness of the episode kind of helped mellow out the dramatic stuff with Julie and Frank and all that.
Right. And I remember that. So your comment that you put on Reddit, I believe that you said, I love the quirkiness of this app. Something about the music score also added to the overall tone, which I loved. It felt different than other episodes, and I can't put my finger on it, but it's not just because half of it takes place somewhere else. I definitely think the whole Frank thing, the scenes in the desert, helped balance it from being too soapy. One of my favorite season 4 episodes for sure.
Yeah.
So, and I love how you're my favorite season 4 episodes. And I think it is important for a lot of people end up saying, I have to compartmentalize each season. Right. And I think season 4 is so unique that, I don't know. I always think of each episode as a little child, and you like it each to its own, and you like it for different reasons. And I like your observations that the desert, what's the part that could be too soapy, the Julie Frank storyline?
Yeah,
and Caitlin?
It was just so dramatic, and it was kind of funny how dramatic he was. And then, you have the stuff in the desert where there's aliens and they're running around chasing them, and nobody knows what's going on. And so I think that helps balance it out pretty good.
I do think the very ending with Frank being I'm Ryan's dad, and the back and forth between Sandy and looking through the files, that is very soapy. The very end of the episode was just soap opera.
Yeah.
But I loved it. But it was super, super cheesy soap opera.
Yeah. It definitely made anxiety.
Yeah.
I noticed that on my Instagram. A few different people said this episode made me so nervous, and I think they were referring to the pregnancy scare, but also that to see Julie get ruffled is what is going on. But I think that Kevin actually did a good job when he said he could have been very dramatic. He just said it matter of fact. I'm Ryan's dad, but the music tells us that we should be scared.
Yeah, I think it was the music definitely that added to the dramatic aspect of it.
Right.
Well, so Lindsay, we had someone say that it was a bummer that like Frank, he was seen as like a quote unquote villain in this episode. And then immediately it was like Julie and him get together and they have this romance. What did you think about like the progression of their relationship or that relationship forming?
I did think it was a little fast. Like, she was like getting with Bullet, I thought, and then all of a sudden, like Frank comes into the picture, and he's so mysterious. I don't know if that's what drew Julie to him or what, but yeah.
I think they wanted I wish Patrick Rush, our casting director, had told us like who else they had up. But from what we understand, I mean, I think they brought him on obviously to be there, to be in Ryan's life. We hadn't met him yet, but also to be a love interest for Julie, because even though Bullet was there, I think they wanted to see Julie actually maybe have some real feelings, not fall for just the wealthy guy.
Yeah.
Although he's the nicest wealthy guy, and I think she would have ended up settling if Frank hadn't come. And I think so at the end, we were just discussing that when she chooses herself, that I think she realizes that
it completes Julie's arc, her story arc, that she chooses herself instead of one of the two of them. Because Julie 2 seasons ago would have probably chosen Bullet in an instant.
Yeah.
But don't you think that in some ways, even though it feels selfish, it's actually selfless in some ways, because she's like, I don't want to just marry this man for his money and maybe just to make Caitlin happy. But I also don't want to do just what I want to do, because I don't know, sometimes women get married thinking that because in the moment it feels right and they haven't thought it through or something. I don't know. I think it's a really complicated thing, but I'm glad that they gave her something to live for.
Someone left a comment. Rosina and Josephine said that Bullet was the Julie, like who Julie used to go for, but Frank was someone who she could relate to more after living in the trailer park and being from Riverside and all that kind of stuff. So there were pros and cons to both of them. But that being said, Lindsay, are you Team Bullet or Team Frank?
That's a good question. I don't know. I feel like, could we just make them one man? They both have
I mean, that's kind of what she does at the end.
Right?
That's
like
true.
She has both of them in her life.
Hey, that's a great point. Julie ain't no dummy.
Right.
She's like, she's only clearly having sex with one, maybe, but I'm going to take the money of the other guy.
I mean, she made it work.
That's funny. That's very funny. So you know what I wanted to say? I just want to get a few observations on things that CG and I didn't talk about. When we're back in, one of my favorite things is how Ryan totally mistakes this whole pregnancy thing as Taylor, and how he handles it in the rave, where he's like, look, it's not a big deal, but clearly you're having sex with somebody else. And she overreacts.
You think I'm a divorcee whore.
Yeah. And
that's the thing about that. Like, I was thinking about it, like Taylor's sitting there, dancing with that guy, and she's all drunk and everything, and Ryan confronts her. And I was thinking, this is going pretty well, because if that had been Marissa getting drunk and Ryan confronting her, that would have been like a whole different outcome situation, I feel like.
That's a good point, because I mean, there were situations in the first 2 seasons, like Marissa being drunk and Ryan having to be like, "What are you doing?"
Right.
So that's a good point. He treated her, I think, with a lot more kindness.
Yeah, it was lighthearted more,
Right. And I think that, which shows a lot of growth, because if you've grown up around somebody who, that the drinking is very much a trigger for him, but I think Marissa did remind him of his mom, whereas Taylor is this completely different creature.
Taylor is her own being.
Well, and I think he was really excited. Like, he was like, like I said, they're not high school, they're young adults, they're college age. Do you think like he really wanted to have, I mean, a big part of relationships is the physical thing. We're not high schoolers anymore. I'm attracted to you and I want to get in bed with you. And when she says, oh no, I'm not going to do that anymore, I think he's like bummed, because he was given lingerie, which is a great gift. Yeah. You should ask Lindsay that question. CG was like, do girls give lingerie to their significant others? Is that a thing?
Like, I know men like buy lingerie as gifts for women, but I was like, do women gift it to their significant other as a gift saying, I will put this on for you. Like, is that a thing?
I mean, I've like bought it for like Valentine's Day or anniversaries, but I don't like give it to him. I just put it on.
Right. That's what I mean. Like, you can buy it and put it on, but I'm like, do you put it in a...
up and give it to him?
I thought that was a little odd. I wrote down, I was like, I don't think that's a thing. But then my mom was like, that's a Taylorism, which totally Rosina just said in the comments. Yeah, that's like something Taylor does.
Yes, for sure. For sure. And then my other favorite moment, and I said this in the other podcast, but I for some reason, I just love to celebrate the creative moments of people that I got to work with. And some of the best is he only had like the 2 lines or the small is the kid who played I'm Kid Chino. And it's hysterical. In fact, I should have asked him, I should ask him if he wants to come on the podcast, but he just did it because they literally had him in the neck band that we made fun of for so much, the choker. You know, just like the scene with the alien and he's like, spell my name, and she's like ZU and he's like ZE. Just these little moments and just the
Zergnog hyphen.
Yeah. Oh man.
Well, there was another question that someone asked us, but we waited to answer because we wanted to ask you when you came on too. So we see towards the end of the episode that Seth proposes to Summer and they get engaged because he thinks they might be pregnant. And it's this weird, awkward interaction after they find out she's not pregnant. Mm-hmm. But so in the finale, we obviously see the flash forward to them getting married. The question we got was, who popped the second proposal that led to them getting married? Like, do you think Summer or Seth was the one who was like, okay, let's get married? Like, popped the second proposal question for them to ultimately get married?
I think probably Seth. That would be my guess, because I feel like Summer was still in her, what was she doing, like a Greenpeace thing? And she just didn't seem really into it maybe, but so I don't know if I could see her doing it.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking like maybe it was like Seth was like, I want to get married to you. You know, no matter what, you let me know when you're ready. Mm-hmm. And then she could have been like, okay, I'm ready. So it was kind of like both of them.
Well, I think I'm picturing 5 years in the future, which is a huge amount of maturity for a young person nowadays. In fact, some kids.
That's my age, 5 years from their future.
Yeah. And actually now they're saying you're not even like fully mature until you're almost 30. Oh, but
I believe that.
I believe it too. I'm 24. I'm like, marriage? I just saw someone who I went to high school with is having a baby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I'm thinking that in those 5 years that Seth has learned, and he probably ends up doing the most romantic, thoughtful, not Jamaican or crazy at all proposal. Mm-hmm. And she just melts, and it's the right moment, and she sticks out her tongue and she says yes. Yeah, that's how it works. That's how they get married. So what is your ultimate favorite moment of this episode?
Probably when at the very end where Taylor and Ryan make up. Because I just love them so much together, and I'm so glad that everything didn't get in the way and they got to make up.
Yes, when he comes in and she's like, you still think I'm on horror? And he's like, no, I never did. Really? Then voila. Or is that what she says?
Or she's like, I can be if you want me to be, or something.
I don't know. Which is the Taylor he knows. And he's like, he's never been with someone like this. He's interested, like I said in the last podcast. He wants to be with Peaches. He's intrigued. He's excited. And she's like, everything but. So,
Lindsay, yes. Favorite OC character of all time outside of the core four, favorite addition to the core four, Anna or Anna for sure.
For sure. Yeah. And I wish she would have stayed longer.
Yeah.
I think we came to that conclusion that Anna Luke. Oh my gosh, I would have loved to see Luke's
Chris
progression.
Carmack.
Yes,
Mhm.
and obviously Tate.
I won't say the word, Mom.
What is it? Dilf?
Dilf.
It's like some people don't like the word
She
moist.
hates that word. Okay, well, Lindsay, favorite OC episode of all time?
Well, all time is the countdown, which is another New Year's Eve episode, right? Something about the
Right.
New Year's Eve episodes. The whole slow motion music part. Oh, I love
Yeah, that one's great.
Every New Year's Eve.
I'm sure that one will be in the top 50. It has to be.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm wondering as we get close that most of them are going to be in season 1. Like if the
Yeah.
whole,
Oh, yeah. Season 1 and 2 is going to be like the top 20 episodes, I bet.
probably.
Oh, yeah. Zach is the other one. Someone just commented Zach. Zach is the other one I was talking about.
Well, yeah, and he might be one of my favorite. Rachel and I were saying he just ended up being just the best podcast guest.
Michael Cassidy. Great.
Cassidy. Michael Cassidy. Well, Lindsay, thank you so much.
Thank you guys for
It's been
having me.
lovely.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
so sorry about the technical issues, but we're so glad you were able to make it on and chat with us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Dream come true. Full circle.
Thank you so much. Actually, you know what? Hold on. I have one more thing. I have a voicemail from Leo.
Hi, this is Leo from New York, and this message is from Melinda. Melinda, I love you. I'm a huge fan. Julie Cooper forever, honestly. Like you, obviously, like in the beginning, you were not the nicest, you're the kindest character on the OC, but you really grew and you proved people wrong. You really have a heart. Like, I love that about the character. But based on that premise, I wanted to ask, do you think that maybe you, Julie Cooper and Dr. Roberts, so, Summer's dad, could have been end game? Because I feel like that relationship could have been given a bit more time on the OC, and it didn't necessarily get enough time. So I was just wondering what your take on that was, and if you really think that Julie Cooper and Dr. Roberts could have been endgame instead of like the Bullet or Ryan's dad.
It's a good point because, looking back now when you see Dr. Roberts, I think of every person that was in her life now after we've watched the whole thing and talked about it. I kind of think that she missed out on that with him.
He was the most solid and like stable and grounding person she was with.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I think they could have been endgame, and I think they should have been.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, especially after the last episode we talked about, like the Free Marissa episode where he comes in, he's like, Marissa's been living with me. She's been great. Like he does everything to support Julie and Marissa.
Right. And I think though, what do you think, Lindsay?
Yeah, I think they could have been really good together. I almost feel like he had like almost too high a standard or something. I don't know.
Julie didn't meet his standards.
But
Julie in the trailer park.
Julie was a little aloof when it came to her kids, and I think he saw that a little bit, maybe. But
Okay, good point. Because now, if we think about the circumstances of how he left, it was Julie was grieving in such a way that it was she had no room for him, and he's like, I can't wait around for this, and this is maybe just a little too much of what I don't want, and he has needs himself. But it would have been really great because then Julie becomes Summer's, she's the mother figure in her life anyway. But I think for storytelling purposes, it was too boring to just have her settle down. I think they needed to shake it up. And, you've got Kirsten and Sandy are the moral epicenter.
The stable.
And the stable, but like, and they're not even writing enough for them in these subsequent seasons, I don't think. But Julie's the character that they can have shenanigans, suspension of disbelief, these unbelievable scenarios, because that's who that character is. So cinematically, it needed to be a little bit more, a little more fun and all that. So thank you, Leo, for your message. And that brings us actually to a close of our podcast. But guys, thank you all for listening. Please be sure to check out my Instagram at @TheMelindaClark. Check out the stories and posts, as well as our weekly Reddit thread for what episodes we are covering next. Will it be one of your favorites? If so, please go to speakpipe.com/OCBitch or email us at beyondtheocpodcast@gmail.com to let us know why and what makes it your favorite. Do you have a favorite line, a favorite scene? We might play your voicemail on the show or ask you to come on live like Lindsay did and discuss. If you'd like to watch the podcast, check it out on Beyond the OC YouTube channel. You can leave comments there too.
Or if you want to be a part of the conversation, you can join us each week on Patreon to get episodes early and ad-free and to discuss the previous week's episodes live on Zoom. Or if you want to be a part of our audience while we're recording, like we have some people here today, you can also get access to that if you join our Patreon. And join us next week for episode 45 in the countdown. It's going to be season 2, episode 12, The Lonely Hearts Club.
The Lonely Hearts Club.
With that being said, Lindsay, do you want to do it with us?
Yeah.
Bye, bitches.
See ya, suckers. Rock on.